Content and contextual analysis of selected primary source in the Philippine history. Antonio Pigapita, known by the name of Antonio Lombardo or Francisco Antonio Pigapita. Pigapita was born in a wealthy Vicenza family in 1491 and died in the same city in 1534. In his youth, he studied astronomy, geography, and cartography. He was also an Italian seafarer and geographer. He joined the expedition to the Spice Island led by the explorer Ferdinand Magellan under the flag of King Charles I of Spain, and after Magellan's death in the Philippines, the subsequent voyage around the world. History background of the document. On August 10, 1519, 5 ships departed from Seville for what was to become the first circumnavigation of the globe, linked by the fame to the name of its captain Magellan. Much of the expedition is known through the travelogue of one of the few crew members who returned to Spain, Antonio Pigapita. A narrative and cartographic record of the journey, including 23 hand-drawn watercolor charts from Patagonia to Indonesia, from the Philippines to the Cape of Good Hope. Pigapita's The First Voyage Around the World is a classic of discovery and exploration literature. The descriptions of the first voyage reflect the early lives of the Visayan ancestors. Political significance shows that even before the pre-colonial, Philippines had its own political system and economic system. They had a barter system wherein they exchange their good for something that they want or need. Content presentation and analysis of the important history information found in the documents. On March 16, 1521, Magellan and his crew arrived in the Philippines island, or what they called as Island of Ladroni. They first reached the island of Samal or Samar. On March 18, there came some natives giving sign of joy for the presence of the crew of Magellan. The native Filipinos did welcome the foreigners warmly, as described by Pigapita. They exhibited great sign of pleasure of seeing us. Seeing that the natives are reasonable men, Magellan gave them red cups, mirrors, cups, and other things. In return, the natives offered fish, wine, coconuts, and other resources. Magellan named the place Island of Homono as the archipelago of San Lazaros due to the several islands located in this district. Archipelago of San Lazaros was the primitive name of the Philippines. Magellan succeeds in his plan to influence the fate of the people on the island he has conquered. The first Mass in our country happened on March 31 in Eastern Day. The Francis Cross was then set up in Masua, Limasawa, as wished by Magellan for the benefits of the natives. The native Filipinos have their idols before and a god, which they called Abba, but they threw this belief away as they embraced Christianity, which Magellan introduced. Magellan and his crew went to Cebu. On April 7, upon hearing good reports about the island from the king of Masua, they are not immediately warmly welcomed, for they were asked to pay tribute, but Magellan refused to do so. There was a negotiation through a notary. The king of Cebu asked for a drop of their blood as a sign of their friendship. Both agree. On Cebu, the captain's power to influence the fate of the people's work. Contribution and relevance of the first voyage around the world in understanding the grand narrative of Philippine history. It is the only known document about Lapu-Lapu's life. Due to the daily notes, Pigapita talked in details about the expedition that he wrote about. It is considered the base source today of the customs and usage of the Filipinos in the early 16th centuries. A primary source account assisted us in understanding how early Filipinos lived. Several datos are said to have joined force with the Europeans. As a result, we can conclude that societies of varying sophistication existed in the Philippines to Magellan's expedition. It emphasized the natives' generosity and hospitality to the expedition team. After all, there might not have been a circumnavigation if the locals on Homonhon Island had not offered food and water to the Europeans, and the ship's rations had not been replenished from the local source. The emphasis on hospitality supposedly began Filipino national character quality, adds another layer to national might-making that could shape the next 50 years of Philippine history. It helped us understand how Filipinos live in the past in how they dealt with the Magellan and his men when they arrived in the Philippines. The Christianity, as the largest religion in the world, was propagated in the Philippines by Ferdinand Magellan. The faith of the natives before is just about raising hands and clapping, building different image of their idols, until Magellan introduced Christianity to them. It was accepted in practice by Filipinos and has been a considerable part of our cultures and belief. Learning experience. Through the analyzing and examining the document became the pole of my knowledge and understanding of the pre-colonial in the Philippines, which is a great help in my study in understanding phases in our own history. The first voyage around the world by Antonio Pigafetta has different kind of analysis and has different important defending in the occurrence of the situation. Pigafetta's texts play a major role in understanding the Philippine history, especially during its pre-colonial periods. It can be considered as the most credible and most detailed historical source in the study of Philippine history. Emilio Jacinto, Kartilya ng Katipunan. Background of the author. Emilio Jacinto was born on December 15, 1875, son of Mariano Jacinto and Josefa Dyson. He went to a private school for his primary education and Colegio de San Juan de Letran for his secondary education, in his college school in the University of Santo Tomas for his law studies. Emilio Jacinto dropped out of college at the age of 20. He joined the Katipunan, a secret revolutionary society. Emilio became the secretary of the one who reports directly to the leaders of Katipunan. He also became the chief advisor on fiscal matters concerning the society. He wrote the society's newspaper called the Kalayaan. He was also referred to as the Utak ng Katipunan. Dimas Ilaw was his pen name. He was also known by the group as Pinkian. Emilio Jacinto was in charge in creating the guidebook for new members, which called the Kartilya ng Kalayaan. He died April 16, 1899 at the age of 24. Historical background of the document. The original version of the document has 14 paragraphs that contains the values that Katipuneros should possess. The name of the document was supposed to be Katungkulang Gawain ng mga Silid, Duties of the Son of the People. In 1986, Andres Bonifacio, the father of the Philippine Revolution and once the president of the Supreme Council of Katipunan, found that duties of the sons of the people, a list of the duties and responsibilities to be followed strictly by every member of the organization. The rules constituted a decalogue and embodied Bonifacio passionate beliefs. Content presentation and analysis of the important history information found in the documents. Katipunan, KKK, stands for the kataas-taasang kagalang-galangang katipunan ng mga anak ng bayan, a revolutionary society that aims the independence and freedom of the Philippines from the oppressors. To those who want to join the Katipunan, they have rules for those who wish to join the KKK. True love of the native land and genuine compassion for one another, the applicant should be renounce all act of evil. Hence, he shall submit the authority of sacred commands of the Katipunan. Contribution and relevance of the documents in understanding the grand narrative of the Philippine history. The relevance or contribution of the document in the Philippine history are the morals and intellectual foundation of our people, the Filipinos, that they had a goal, a set of rules, clearly a work of an intellect that show that our heroes has the intellectual capacity to rival those who have better education. The document also show that Filipinos have dignity and treat people equally. They fought right away for our independence. Learning experience. My overall experience and insight on the primary source were that Filipinos have dignity and patriotism back then, that they value life and had notable intentions, that our heroes did everything in their power to liberate us from our oppressors. Ambrosio Rianzares Bautista, Proclamation of Independence. Background of the author. Ambrosio Rianzares Bautista, the author of the Declaration of Philippine Independence, and was the one who read it during June 12, 1898. Independence Proclamation was born on December 7, 1830. at Bigan, Laguna, ended on December 4, 1903. He studied law at the University of Santo Tomas, obtained a degree and practiced his learning in Manila. He also gave advice to Dr. Jose Rizal during high school days in Manila. He solicited funds to support a campaign for reforms and later became a member of La Liga Filipina and La Propaganda. He was arrested and jailed at the Fort Santiago by Spaniards during the outbreak of revolution. He was later released from the prison. He also became Emilio Aguinaldo advisor before he was replaced by Apolinario Mabini. History background of the document. Ambrosio Rianzaris Bautista wrote in Ray the Act of Declaration of Independence of Filipino People on June 12, 1988, wherein a passage in the Declaration reminds one of another passage in American Declaration of Independence. It also includes lists of grievances of Filipinos against the Spanish government. The document was read together with the first official hosting of the Philippine flag and flying of the Philippine National March in public. 98 persons signed the document and one of those was an American Army officer who witnessed the proclamation. That document shows how Filipino Revolutionary Force proclaimed the sovereignty and independence of the Philippine Island from the colonization of Spaniard. Content presentation and analysis of the important history information found in the documents. General Emilio Aguinaldo, the Philippines' first Republican president and the head of the Republic of Biak na Bato, declared the Philippine independence and sovereignty from Spain after 300 years of colonial oppression. Aguinaldo and his generals agreed to accept exile in Hong Kong in return for financial resources and the welfare of the Philippines. They immediately withdrew, and the Philippine Revolution was kept on hold for the time being during late 1897. Subsequently, on May 1, 1898, the battle at the Manila Bay broke out. Simultaneously, the Spanish-American War, in which the Spaniards were vanquished, resulting in the pronouncement not being acknowledged by the Spaniards or the Americans due to the Treaty of Paris, in which the Philippines were given over the Americans by the Spaniards, ushering in the era of American colonization that persisted for 48 years. Eventually, General Emilio Aguinaldo and his army arranged an agreement with the United States wherein they were granted permission to return to the Philippines in the return for supporting them in the struggle against the Spaniards. Following the general arrival with his army back to the countries on May 19, 1898, the Declaration of Independence took place on June 12, 1898 upon the balcony of General Emilio Aguinaldo's home in Cavite, El Viejo, or also known as Kawit Cavite. On this day and the age, the crowd erupted in applause as the Philippine national anthem started playing currently with the ceremonial unfolding of the Filipino flag took place on the occasion. Wherein the Philippine flag exhibit 3 yellow stars that represent the Philippines, 3 island group with the sun in the middle of it, that was inspired by Katipunan banners in the first 8 provinces to revolt will symbolized by the 8 rays of the sun. Contribution and relevance of the documents in the understanding the grand narrative of Philippine history. The Declaration of Independence is one of the most important milestones in the Philippine history. The country was colonized by many nations for hundreds of the years. Imagine achieving your freedom after all the hardship you've been through. It is priceless. Philippine Independence Day has been celebrated every June 12 since 1962. The original celebration used to be on July 4, but then President Diosdado Macapagal changed the date to June 12 in commemoration of Emilio Aguinaldo's Declaration of Independence from the Spaniards. In turn, July 4 was declared as Philippine Republic Day of American Filipino Friendship Day, when a treaty was made declaring the freedom of the Philippines from the United States. The celebration of the Philippine independence is from May 28 to June 12, where all government establishments, residents, and other public squares are encouraged to display the country's flag. The country began its celebration by displaying the flag in various historical places nationwide. Learning experience. Independence Day reminds us of the recognition of Filipinos and to show respect and appreciation to the memorial of their evolution that gave birth to our nation. It is also the day we remember the courage and sacrifice of our ancestors. Despite the several conquering of foreign countries to the Philippines, Filipinos didn't stop until they achieved the freedom. Our freedom is priceless. The treaty made by different countries to the Philippines did not enable them to win over our country. Regardless of how many times someone tries to take over our country, we will not let our precious country to be claimed by them. Corazon Aquino's speech. Background of the author. Maria Corazon Cory Cuangho Aquino was born in Paniqui, Tarlac on January 25, 1933. She attended her high school attainment here in the Philippines and later on went to the United States to continue her study in Notre Dame Convent School in New York. After her graduation, she also attended College of Mount St. Vincent in New York City for her undergraduate education. When she returned to the Philippines, she attended law school in Far Eastern University. Cory Aquino is married to Benigno S. Aquino Jr. He was a youngest member in the Senate. Her family moved to Boston for 3 years after her husband was in prison. She didn't originally plan to run for president but people encouraged her to do so and she won the election on February 7, 1986. Teodoro T. Boy Lopez Locsin Jr. is a politician, lawyer, former journalist, and presidential speechwriter for Cory Aquino in office of the president in the year 1985 to 1992. He was born on 1984, November 13 in Manila. His father, Teodoro Locsin Sr. is also a publisher and also worked with the other people. History background of the document. Corazon Aquino delivered her speech at the joint session of the United States Congress on September 18, 1986. She was urged to the lead of the Philippines after his husband was assassinated on the August 21, 1983. She did the speech to seek help from the government of the United States to help the Philippines because of the foreign debt, poverty, and unemployment in the country as an aftermath left by the previous administration. Content presentation and analysis of the important history information found in the documents. Cory's speech started as she mentioned on what his husband, Ninoy, went through when she was locked up, and how tragic his death was. According to her, the government treated him badly as they tortured him endlessly and threatened that will he be killed by execution. They also imposed him in trial for murder and other crimes. After being with his husband for over 3 years, he came back to the Philippines. Soon enough, they received the news that he was assassinated right before he stepped out of the plane. She also mentioned how the dictatorship during the time held a snap election, but still she was able to win and she regarded to it as the victory of the people. She concluded her speech by saying thanks to America for helping her build a new democracy. Contribution and relevance of the documents in understanding the grand narrative of Philippine history. Her speech played an important role in the grand narrative of Philippine history because it truly shows how Filipinos would do anything to gain freedom. In her speech before the U.S. Congress, Cory shared her experience and sorrows from losing a loving husband and a good father for her family. She provided a brief narration of how Marcos suspended in the Philippine Constitution and shut down the Congress, which eventually led to Ninoy's exile and death, highlighting the cruelty he experienced in the hands of military and dictator. From this, she detailed how to task the free Filipinos and fight democracy fell into her shoulders. She mentioned how personally experienced the corruption of the Commission on Election and praised the unity and courage of the people in times of oppression. Learning experience. My learning experience in speech of Corazon Aquino, it gave us a sight on how democracy was fought in the line before and how the previous government treated its people. We can see the regime of Marcos through the speech of Cory, and we can all be aware of how strict it was. Even the journalists doesn't have their freedom of speech. Lastly, it shows how Cory fought for the freedom and revolution of her people. Alfred McCoy, Philippine Cartoons. Background of the author. Alfred McCoy, born on June 8, 1945 in Concord, Massachusetts, United States. He is a professor of East Asian History at the University of Wisconsin at Madison, where he also served as director at the Center for East Asian Studies. He spent the past quarter century writing about the politics and history of the optimum trade. McCoy has spent the 30 years writing about Southeast Asian history in politics. His publications include Philippine Cartoons, 1985, Anarchy of Families, 1994, Closer Than Brothers, Manhood at the Philippine Military Academy, 2000, and The Lives at the Margin, 2001. After earning a PhD in Southeast Asian history at Yale, the writings of McCoy on this region has focused on two topics: Philippine political history and global opium trafficking. The Philippines remain the major focus of his research. His teaching interests include modern Philippine social and political history, U.S. foreign policy, colonial empires in Southeast Asia, illicit drug trafficking, NCA covert operation, political history, and global opium trafficking. History background of the document. Philippine political cartoons gained full expression during the American era. Filipino artists recorded national attitudes toward the coming of the Americans as well as the changing mores in times. While the 377 cartoons compiled in this book speak for themselves, historian Alfred McCoy's extensive research in Philippine and American archives provide a comprehensive background not only to the cartoons but to the turbulent period as well. Artist-writer Alfredo McCoy Roses, who designed the book, contributes an essay on Philippine graphic satire of the period. Content presentation and analysis of the important history information found in the documents. It provides an important record documents of American era. They reflect the values, conflict, and important issues in the society. It encourages us the process of opinion formation and decision making as well as a probe entertaining perspective on the news. It represents the feelings of the people, way to discuss political and social issues using arts. The future generation will be able to have a glimpse of the past Philippine society through this cartoon. Contribution and relevance of the documents in understanding the grand narrative of Philippine history. McCoy's compilation of Philippine political cartoons give us a glimpse of the scandal struggles and social changes during the 4 decades of American colonial rule. The political cartoons play an important role in understanding the social and cultural situation of the Philippines during the transition from the Spanish to American colonization. The way of describing and illustrating the political events happened during the American colonization unveiled the artistic qualities of the Filipinos expressing their sentiments on political scenario during the time. Learning experience. My learning experience in the cartoons, I can see the four circumstances of Filipinos in the Philippines being governed by the United States of America. Looking at the big picture, the past and the present are not much contradicting. Most of us Filipinos are still a slave to something such as capitalism in the present, police brutality, and many more social injustice.